Okay, Pat, we are on.
Hey,
How's it
how you
going out
doing?
there? Yep.
Good. How
Yes.
you doing?
It's
Happy.
Friday. I'm not going anywhere for Memorial Day weekend, so it's just you and me.
In lockdown. Hello,
So
people. All the millions of people out there watching us, and
millions,
um,
millions.
yeah,
It's just I'm just glad the internet's up and running. Speaking of the internet, little off topic. They these developers in Australia, I read this morning, came up with an internet speed using the infrastructure that's already out there, and they tested it, and you can download 1,000 movies in a minute.
really.
It's that fast. And so it's the world's record for internet speed. I mean, talk about the things that you can do if you get that kind of broadband speed, and you can do it over, they said they do it over the existing infrastructure. You don't have to lay more, fiber or more copper or just, so I thought that was pretty cool. We're going to hear more about that coming down the road, but let's dive into this fun world of real estate and lending, shall we?
Yeah, we got. I know this weekend. I mean, it's a pre-Memorial weekend. I'm sure. Hopefully, I guess we won't keep it. We got going. We get going. We get 30 minutes. Keep it short and sweet and
Yeah, we'll keep
pound
it
it.
short and sweet because we know people want to go up and go camping. So, but you got to keep your tents 6 feet from each other. So, um, so in the past 2 days, I've been looking at trends, and so I'm going in and look at the MLS. And so in the past 2 days, we've got 1,138 new listings that came on, Pat, and 1,285 in the past 2 days have gone under contract. So we're continuously having more listings go under contract than come on. But then we have 113 homes that temporarily took their house off the market and 258 that put them back on. So the number of people that are taking their houses off the market is starting to dwindle as they realize that, hey, they're actually selling. And we dipped down below 13,000 homes yesterday listed, and we went back up today, which is typical for a Friday because everybody puts the homes on Friday for the weekend. So, but I bet you $1 to a donut on Monday morning we'll be in the high 12,000 instead of 13,000. So now March 13th, we started at a base of 11,000 units. So that's when things were really, really low and tight. And then
What day was
remember
that
that
again?
we were at 11,000 units in March,
Yeah.
March 13th. And then it was the next week that Arizona was told to stay in place. And then we jumped by 2,500 listings. So we kind of looked at the stats and said, well, people are probably going to bail here and start to sell, but it shows you that you have to keep looking at the numbers because one day doesn't make a trend.
Yep.
And so looking at, I'm going to show you another number here. I'm going to share my screen here for a second. I want to share, this one's really important here. This is, see if that, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is showing time, and showing time is what we use to go, to schedule appointments. So, you click on it and it notifies the agent, notifies the homeowner, that we'd like to have an appointment. And we're right here. The yellow line, golden line here is where we went. So you can see the stay-at-home order was issued right here.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, nobody went out. Nobody was requesting to see homes. April was pretty bad. We're almost up. We are up to the pre-COVID-19 levels when it comes to people looking at homes.
Yeah.
Look at that traffic.
That's amazing.
So that's
a pretty powerful graphic, actually. That's a real powerful.
Yeah, and we're seeing that same upward trend in homes under contract. So there are some things changing. And then one more thing that I found, this was by the Congressional Office, the CBO, Congressional Budget Office. They're never right, but these are 10-year Treasury notes, and they're showing projection that rates are going to start going up at the beginning of 2021. So that's probably the catalyst for,
No, those are the Treasury notes, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, just to interject real quick, obviously Treasury notes, there's the Treasury notes and the mortgage-backed security notes and securities that they buy. So they typically will kind of run parallel, but there has been a decoupling the last couple months, obviously, with Treasury and mortgage-backed security market because of the, like we talked about the last several weeks, forbearances. So even though the Treasury, those rates are going up, they're really pushing hard to keep the mortgage rates down. They're going to do everything in their power to obviously keep these rates, because right now rates being a low to mid threes, if they spike to 4.5 or 5, people are so comfortable with low threes, mid threes%. If they went to, even like I said, high fours, low fives, that would obviously put a big damper on a lot of people.
yeah, some of the things that we have to watch is in the Senate today, McConnell made it clear that he did not want to extend unemployment benefits, that extra $600 beyond July 31st.
Yeah.
And they are going to be sending out, as of today, they said they are in agreement to send out the $1,200 stimulus checks, but there's still a whole bunch of other programs and pork and all kinds of crap inside that bill that went there. And so they're still trying to whittle that out, but they're all going to be gone, till Tuesday. So I don't expect anything happen there. And then 6 months from now, you can do forbearance for, 6 months. And then in 6 months, you can request another 6 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of that 6 months. Do people, will we be, kind of running normal by then? I doubt it. What's going to happen? Because, forbearance doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a large list of foreclosures.
Yep.
But there could be some fallout. So right now,
go keep going, sorry.
And we've seen in our price ranges between 300 and 500,000 and number of homes under contract, that price range has not been affected at all. In the month of May, it is even with last year. Above 600 is a different story. You start getting into jumbo loans. But so if you're one of these people that said, I was going to sell my house, but I want to wait and see what happens first, you're one of those first people to pull you out, and you're between 300 and 600,000. I think the signal's loud and clear that you should put it on the market, because there isn't a pullback there. And I still think that later on, it may be harder to sell that home, but right now, they're scooping them up. And why do you think that is?
I think we talked about it. I think several reasons. I mean, I think you and I are getting, we've talked in the last 6 weeks since this stuff started. We started these calls, and you kind of get a sense. It's almost like an ongoing story. Like rates being where they're at. I think we talked about this earlier in the phone call this morning, but people are getting tired of being in an apartment. They want to they want a home. And
right now their pool's closed, their gym's closed.
Yeah. Gym's closed. They're in a 1,000 square foot apartment. They want to buy a 1,600, 1,700, 2,000 square foot house. And as we said the last couple of calls, it's kind of interesting. We're kind of gathering this story, and you kind of get a better feel for it as we're going along here. But I'm just, like you said, once again, I said the last couple of calls, people are just saying, hey, I want to buy a home. I mean, I'm tired of being in this apartment. Rates are low. And as I mentioned to you too, there's an article in Arizona Central that rents are going to go through the roof. So once again, the younger generation have got 1 or 2 kids. I think they're just getting cooped up. They're saying, we got to get a house. And the demand, it's just with rates where they're at, the programs are, I'm starting to see, it's kind of interesting. Like I said, this is kind of like a movie developing, but we jumped into COVID. The lenders just came down and tightened up right away. And the last week, I'm starting to see just a little, they went like this, and now they're kind of like, they're moving. Every day I get a guideline saying, just recently from one of my wholesalers, they said a couple of weeks ago, they said, hey, we're going to have for rental properties, we need 6 months reserves on every property. Remember I mentioned that to you a couple of weeks ago? Well, now they came out and said they took that overlay away. And now whatever DU, when I run it in the system for a client that's got a rental property, if they say we want 3 months reserve, they'll go by those findings versus having a strict 6 month. So lenders seem like they shut the door and they're kind of opening the door up a little bit to say, can we scoot in there a little bit? So it's encouraging. Like I said, they're just loosening them up a little bit. It's just really fascinating, and you just still have to be. They're still tight, but every day now I'm getting an email saying, "Hey, remember that email that we sent you 4 weeks ago? That's no longer applies." So they're kind of keeping that door. Maybe they'll see what happens with these forbearances, and then maybe they'll shut it again. But it's kind of like President Trump. They're saying open up the country and let's adjust it. I think everybody's adjusting accordingly.
Well, I think it's probably more too of a result of when they clamped down at first because, Congress was telling you what you could and couldn't do, but they weren't very clear on, you don't have to pay your rent, but they weren't very clear on how landlords are going to get their money. And they said, you don't have to pay your mortgage. Well, they didn't tell the servicers, hey, we're going to back you up. So we had to go through that period where they had to add clarification. And so, it's no wonder lending tightened up, but I think
I'm starting to see it the last week. I'm starting to see, like you said, they clamped down real quick, and then it's kind of like they're just coming out of they're like, we're shutting it down, and then they're coming back. But to go back, why? I mean, the market just seems strong. I mean, I'm just amazed. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, I thought the activity level I'm seeing from the mortgages and real estate agents and looking at these Facebook posts, mortgage related Facebook posts, there's mortgage people that have got individual mortgage lenders that are working 40, 50, 60 loans on a given month.
I didn't see this. I didn't see this coming. I always said this is my first pandemic. So
I know. I mean, mine too, and hopefully last. But I'm kind of, me, I get off topic a little bit, but the rates are low, and people are just buying long term, and it's fascinating, but I still think, and I think you agree that I still think, and I was talking to a buddy of mine that was talking to a buddy of his as a money manager back in Wisconsin. He said there's still going to be some negative stuff down the road, and we've got 30 to 40 million people unemployed. That's going to have like you said, you can't have good things when that happens, and but it seems like what people are doing right now is flying in the face of everything that should be happening. It's just because people are moving forward.
I guess you're sitting there and you're saying, because this is really driven by the millennials, the market right now, in that 3 to 6 range. That's who's buying those homes, and so they're going. I get it. Real estate may come down, but it's pretty obvious to me that rent's going to continue to go up. So let's go ahead and grab something and just don't plan on moving. And then many of them have been given the opportunity to work from home, and so they want that extra space and that extra office. But there are some, storm wind, clouds hanging over us. And I watched this economist, Danielle DiMartino Booth, and she said that 9 weeks into our initial claims of unemployment, they're still climbing. And she used the term, she says, now we're cutting into the bone. Unemployment, you would think we had this spike in unemployment and then it start coming up, but it's still going up. And 25% of store closings are going to be permanent. And you're seeing it already. Pier 1 Imports, Nordstrom's, downtown Chandler, the El Zocalo restaurant is not going to open up again. And she said, and then after that starts happening, so the example that she gave, she says, well, let's just take a regular business. Let's say Best Buy and Santan Brewing. Okay. So I say Best Buy because my son works there. So don't want to scare him. But what'll happen is that in these establishments, now that they're open, they're going to face a decision to say, in the last quarter, and it's always October, Well, you're going to have to lay some people off to improve Q4 profits. So we're going to start seeing layoffs. They're bringing them back, but now that the numbers are hitting, they're going to have to start laying people off. And so after that, the next phase is the white collar layoffs. In other words, the people in the suites, that's when, VPs and the like are getting axed. And that is all going to start showing up in October. And there may be a lot of those disturbing December pink slips that we see. And, real estate may still be chugging along, as people are moving, but the economy is definitely showing signs that we're not going to have a V recovery. Have you gone out to a restaurant yet?
No, I don't think so. No.
Well,
at
least
wait. No, I think, I don't know what day or what month. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think, did I? Jeepers creepers. That tells you how, I think I did for a beer. Yeah, we went out for a beer. Oh, no, I'll take that back. The other night, yeah. Me and my memory, I went down downtown Chandler, the new City Hall restaurant. And there, it was about 9 o'clock. It was like 9 o'clock at night. It was kind of shut it down, but it was, it was.
Well, I went down to the local last night in Chandler. You and I meet there quite a bit. And Lisa.
Not every day. Let's not get their audience.
Yeah, not during the day. But there were only 15 of us in there. And it was 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I went out to dinner earlier in the week at the Sicilian Butcher. And my point is these places none of them are past 25% capacity.
Well, even the gym. I went to Mountainside, Mountainside Fitness. They opened up this last Monday, and I thought I didn't go Monday because I figured out they'd be slammed. There's people dying to get out. I went Tuesday, and there's probably 20 people there.
Yeah.
I mean, people have been shocked and we're talking a lot of different things, but I think people have been shocked and traumatized by all this. And this, not trying to read your mind, but people have been shocked and traumatized by this. So, I mean, this is going to have an effect. This all translates to economy and real estate and money.
Well, that's why I'm saying sell now. I mean, I don't know where real estate's going, but I don't see anything that tells me that we're going to have this huge push up. So if you're sitting in a house and you were going to sell it for $350 and you pulled it off the market because you thought you were only going to get $320, it's obvious now that that's not the case, right? Because they're selling, but I don't see anything that tells me it's going to be worth $375 anytime soon.
Yeah. So there's enough demand there to keep the level, 350, but there's not something, there's multiple offers, but the multiple offers aren't getting crazy and say, I'll pay you 370 for the house. Yeah. They're not escalating. That's definitely, they probably top it out there. Hey, can I jump in real quick? We talked about the forbearances.
Yeah.
I know, that some stuff I pulled up from some of my mortgage sites. They're talking about how home sales obviously were released, and obviously the lowest levels they've seen in years. They said there's been a flattening of this curve. He said mortgage investors are beginning to calm down. Credit availability is improving, like I just said a couple minutes ago. And it said puzzlingly high rates are starting to move lower for certain programs and borrowers. I mean, like you said, it kind of goes back to that volatility premium that I said that lenders have built into the rate. There are some banks out there. I was talking to a friend of mine that works for this bank in Oklahoma. They're offering rates, high 2s and 3s. Right now, being a broker, I mean, most rates are in the low to mid 3s, 3.5, 3 3/8, 3.5, 3 5/8. It just goes to show you. I talked to her and she goes, yeah, I'm at 3% on a 30-year fixed. And I was a little bit higher rate wise, but she said, well, I'm not getting anything closed. It's taking so long to close. So that, that kind of, remember that, service rate and speed, to pick 2 out of 3. And you can get 3%, but it's going to take you 120 days to close that. So but she said, credit has been loosening up. Black Knight, the service that I get the numbers from, as of April 30th, there was, I reported last week, there's 3.8 million As of April 30th, there's 3.8 million homes in forbearance. And as of the number that it said as of May 19th was 4.75. So about a million more in forbearance. But this article brought up an interesting point. I'm going to read a couple of bullet points if you don't mind. I don't have this memorized because, like I said, it's hard to memorize stuff when things are changing every minute. But they said there's 4.75 million as of May 19th. It said the number of plans grew by 93,000 borrowers between May 12th and May 19th in a week. But they said, very interestingly enough, that there's been some of a slowdown. And they said that it appears to be, this note here, it appears that some borrowers may have, at least initially, requested a forbearance plan as a kind of a precautionary measure. Because they said 46% of the borrowers in forbearance at the end of April, let's see, about 46% of the borrowers in forbearance at the end of April, 4.25 million in number, made the month's payment, while 54% of them did not. So while people are going in forbearance, they're still making the payment. It's kind of like maybe a precautionary thing. They said some made full payments, keeping the forbearance as a safety net in case the bottom drops out, while some made partial payments so as not to build upon a growing amount that will ultimately need to be repaid back. It said here only 5% of those surveyed said they could not have made their mortgage payment without the forbearance. I thought that was an interesting number, only 5%. It said another 26% said they could have paid, but would have needed to skip other essential bills. So about 30% are kind of tight as far as paying. It said Black Knight said that May seems to be shaping up a bit differently. As of this report, only 21% of those in forbearance had made their May payments. This means that up to 1.4 million who made April payments are at risk of becoming due in May. So they said it could increase, it could lead to another increase in national delinquency rates. So it seemed, this forbearance, like I said, when we first started these talks several weeks ago, the forbearance number was to look at. Now it's like, okay, they're using this as a kind of a precautionary step. And it kind of bodes well, kind of our underlying theme that, and as I told you a couple calls ago, or we talked about, is that people are going in forbearance, but to compare it to 07, 08 is really not a good comparison, because people, looks like they're using this forbearance to fight for the equity that they have. And they're just not letting homes go. Back in 07, 08, you had 4 homes. You just you said, I'm done. I'm gone.
Yeah, you're walking away from a bad product now. So people aren't doing that now.
So it seems like there's a little fight. There's a little fight in people to keep it. So maybe that, that cushion, obviously this kind of goes with our theory that, hey, it's not going to be a crash. Things are going to soften. But, like you said, you don't see a lot of things pushing up the market, but.
Well, Redfin is seeing data now because they get to see on their website what cities you're looking in, and they see what cities you're living in. And they're seeing a huge amount of people in San Jose searching places like Boise, Idaho, Portland, Oregon, Nashville, Tennessee, Texas, smaller rural areas, because Twitter told 50% of their employees that they could work permanently from home. And you don't have to work, in California. And so California and New York are seeing people just starting to bail now. In fact, I'm running ads now on Facebook in San Jose, and for homes in Arizona. And
well, it's smart. It's smart. I mean, if you're working at Apple or Twitter, I say Twitter, you're in San Jose. I mean, they say work at home. Do you want to work at home in San Jose, where taxes and a home that's $3.5 million is a house you can get here for $400,000, $500,000 with a pool, and live in Gilbert. You can get a 3,500 square foot home, for, you're the expert there, but. Why not?
Bank of America changed their projections today as well. They had originally took a very pessimistic attitude in their estimates and said that our GDP was going to be down by 30% this quarter. They revised it, said it's going to be down by 40%.
Yeah.
And the next quarter, they say we'll be up 7%, but that's up 7% from 40. So you're going to be, down 40% and then 7% higher. So when you're going to hear this number the next quarter and go, we're up 7% versus last quarter. Well, you're in a hole. You're coming out. And the same Congressional Budget Office, I won't pull up the chart now, but they're saying that we're still going to be in negative territory at the end of 2021. And that's like, I think we're going to be down 7% is what they projected by the end of 2021.
Yeah. I mean, you look at,
it's going to be a rough few years.
Yeah. And that's why, we talked, remember we talked one of the first calls, everybody says projected a V phone, V. And you and I was like, there's no way there's a V can be a V. It's gonna be more of a W, and the W might be a muted where, it's not the same height on each return, because it might be you got Pier 1, you got, Ditka, I saw this on Facebook. Ditka is the famous restaurant in Chicago. They're done permanently. They're closed permanently.
Yeah.
Just you take these
my
little
brother
microcosms.
lives in Port Angeles, Washington, and that's where I grew up. And there's a ferry boat that takes you from Port Angeles to Victoria, British Columbia. It's called Black Ball Ferries, and it hasn't been running. And they are saying that it's not going to probably start back up until December. And if that's the case, it may never run again. And that's a huge, huge economic hit to a town of 20,000 people. It's all that tourism. And you look at it, like one of my brother's friends owns the Hertz, who may end up filing for bankruptcy. He owns Hertz rental cars downtown, and where he rents the cars, he's also got a huge parking area where he parks cars for people that walk on the ferry to go to Victoria for the day. So he gets that parking on it, and he's not getting any business on both fronts, the car rental and and parking. And that's all of downtown. And downtown, which is really small, gets all of their revenue, from tourists and people coming over from Canada or waiting to catch the ferry and walking around downtown Port Angeles. And that story is going to repeat itself all across the country.
Yeah.
But I think, intermixed with all of that, it is refreshing though to see that there are still people that can afford to buy a home, and they're stepping out and they're making the move. Because, I think, it may get tough, but they can, as long as they make the payment, they've still got a chance down the road to build some serious equity. But they're going to see a dip come up, and the other thing I've seen, because I see it on social media and I see it on YouTube, big crash coming, real estate to go down 10%. That's not a crash. That's just a 10% little hiccup. No. And it may go down 10%. A crash, that's no big deal.
A crash was 07, 08 when you saw, real estate values drop 50, 60%. You had houses in Maricopa, 3,000, I'm kind of just running up, I remember seeing different scenarios where, 3,000 square foot house, 5-bedroom, 4-bath house in Maricopa was going for $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah. On the golf course.
On the golf course. So, yeah. I mean, that's we had a crash back in 07, 08. And like you said, we're in challenging times right now. And hopefully the viewers that people are watching, I mean,
the millions,
you said,
the millions.
Yeah. Millions, we're not experts, but I think we know just as much as some of the so-called experts. Cause in my business, the last 30 years, I've seen experts 9 out of 10 times they're wrong. And so I don't know why they keep calling them experts, because you and I are putting together data and looking at certain things that will rival anybody, as far as what they're looking at. And just like I said, data, trends, and psychology. And, hopefully some of the, I think you and I are trying to do these calls to try to give people a sense of the good, the bad, the indifferent. And, like you said, you always get these agents, that just say, buy. It's a great time to buy. Well, maybe you're the type of agents like, what, let's pull back a little bit here. Let's think about this. And,
yeah, I think that, you have to, a couple of cautions, the numbers that you're going to see now, everybody's talking about April, and that doesn't do you any good. So you've got to look at things on a weekly basis. And, if we just were to rely on April numbers at all, and I'm going to speak from a position of selling a house. So the numbers I'm seeing now show that April sales were terrible. They were bad. So I'm not going to put my house up for sale because I haven't seen the May numbers yet. And I'm not going to see the May numbers until June. And they're going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then guess what? Everybody's going to put their house on the market in June at the same time you are. If you put it on the market now in May, well, you've only got one more week left, but you'll be ahead of everybody. The number to watch is competition. And, it's like in a car lot. You're the only car lot in town and you got 4 cars, well, it's going to be pretty easy to sell another car. So, I mean, there's only 13,000 homes for sale right now. And so you have a chance to make it 13,001 and with very little competition. When I pulled up my residential area and I can show, I'm going to screen share this because I want people to see some of the things that we can look at, right? So I'm going to pull something up here because I look at, okay, so I'm going to pull up the MLS here. So let's just do a search for my brokerage here. And I'm going to look at company listings. And I'm going to drill down and I want to find something in the area. See all those things, those colors that are in yellow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That means they're no longer available. So, but if I look down here, I'll come down to my neighborhood down here and I go, oh, there's a house right there, that green little dot there. And I click on it and it's under contract. Well, shoot, then I'll look at this one. It's active, but it's overpriced. It's been on since October. So they turned it into a rental. So go down here. Just went on a few days ago. It's 339. This one here is under contract. So when you start digging and you start looking closely in a neighborhood, you're going to find there aren't that many choices. Now, if I just take a quick search and I do active homes in all of Arizona, and I look at the map, it's going to seem like a sea of green dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, when you come down in this neighborhood and you start drilling down, you say, Rick, I want to live in Ocotillo. Okay. Well, that's not very many homes for sale.
No.
I used to live right here in Spyglass Bay. There's only one, and it's not selling because it's going up against a busy street.
And can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Back in 07, 08, if I could jump in real quick, I mean, you would have seen, if I remember seeing a map like that back in 2009, 2010, you would have had that one little neighborhood, probably about 10 red dots, in foreclosure.
Exactly. Yeah. So 13,000 seems like a big number, and it looks like a big number when you look at all these green dots, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you start going into the neighborhood and you say, I want a house for 375,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, those green dots start disappearing real quick. See, there's not that much there. So there's 379. So that's where, if you're putting your home up on the market, there's not much competition. Now, listing I've got coming up this week, he lives down here in the Kyrene School District in 85226.
That's
and
a good
at the
one.
time when I met with him, he says, well, where do you think the market's going to be? And I said, well, I think we need to watch the numbers closely because I don't know. But I said, right now, there's very little inventory, and he lives right here. And so what's he got? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 homes in his.
That's a pretty good size area. That's a really good area.
259, got one 399. This one's 359 and 280. And he's going to price at 340. And there's nothing there. So if you're looking to list, that's what you need to have your agent show you. So, well, tell me what's for sale here. And I can tell you,
And
you know,
and
it's your
that's the thing.
competition. It's like there's no competition.
That's the value that you have, obviously, because people can go on Zillow and say, I want this, people often call you and say, hey, I want it Zillow, but that's all outdated information.
I call Zillow the home of great disappointment. I had a client 2 weeks. Well, the ones that you're doing the loan for me on, that we got them into a house, and they kept sending me these homes. We want to see this, want to see that. And I smiled and I said, "You're on Zillow again, aren't you?" Because they were all under contract. And they go, "Yeah." I said, "All right, go to Realtor.com. If you're going to use a phone app, do that because it's accurate because it's owned by realtors." So
Yeah.
so hey, well, we should probably let people get on vacation. The millions that are watching.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is, I think we're getting a better picture. Yeah, the millions are watching. Just go. I know you were having your beer and drink while you're watching us, but I think we're getting a better sense of, to summarize it. I mean, on my end, there's a lot of question marks. Lenders tightened up. They're loosening up a little bit. Things are getting done quick, and the forbearances. Number to still keep an eye on. Obviously there's gonna be a percentage of those that go into foreclosure, but people are using it as a precautionary method, so maybe it's not as bad as it's going to seem. And bottom line is, to another summary, is people are protecting their equity, the 50, 60, 100,000, $200,000 in equity. So they're going to fight for that. So you're just not going to see between what you're seeing on your end and what I'm seeing on my end. I don't see this. The mass chaos is kind of calming down a little bit. And
yeah, I don't see anything that's going to add more green dots on the map.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are being smart. Like the people we're working with, they're very level-headed people. Once again, buying long-term, as we talked about this morning, I think, or yesterday, if you're looking to flip homes, yeah, that's another model that's, still that, it's short-term. People are not looking short-term right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good decision. Well, Pat, have a great weekend. Go to a restaurant, support your local restaurants.
Yep.
And now I did see a sign that said, it was hanging on a bar that said, we can only seat at 30% capacity. So you got to drink like 3 times your normal amount.
Well,
so do your part.
I'm Irish and I'm from Wisconsin. So I got a double whammy against me.
They'll let you in.
Yeah. And, I might even try to get to bingo with Jill this weekend. I'm gonna give her a call. Maybe we'll go to bingo.
Okay.
I know she's watching.
Yeah.
I know she's watching.
We see you, Jill. All right. See you, Pat.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.